It's just a matter of figuring out exactly what works. Doghouse had a gap in day parts that they were missing out on. And so they found a way to take advantage of it, like Holly said, using resources they already have. So those kinds of like very specific test models are great right now, I think.
Yeah, and just to button it up, all this up, I'd say it comes down to complexity and bandwidth, right? And Joanna points this out in her story, which is, for so many of the failures, it was because they were overly complex. Because if you offered a virtual brand to a host kitchen, and it was all additive, it could have been additive equipment, additive ingredients, then you're adding a layer of complexity onto your operation that becomes untenable. Versus the Doghouse model, to Holly's point, which is Doghouse already had these SKUs, right? A lot of these menu items, they built brands around existing menu items. That's a smarter way to do it than to just layer something else entirely on top of it. And then the bandwidth thing, to what Leanne was saying, when we think back to 3 years ago and the state of things when this really took off, I have a brother-in-law here in Columbus who is a GM of a hotel. And for 4 months, he had 0 customers because they weren't accepting customers for 4 months, right? Because hotels just like nobody's traveling. And he had to do anything to make money. And so he was doing ghost kitchens out of his kitchen. Now he had the bandwidth. He had no customers. So he was like, okay, how do I make money? And he used ghost kitchens. Once customers came back, ghost kitchens are gone, right? So, and that was very true of a lot of restaurants. When sales dropped 50% and you have bandwidth, you can layer this on and say, okay, I'm going to do something a little different to try something. But by and large, as we have seen from our top 500, which is coming out, if you're listening to this in a few days, you will see by and large business is back to 2019 levels or better. So you probably don't have bandwidth for virtual brands anymore. So think as much as you want about, whether or not it makes sense for you. And yeah, like to what Leanne was saying, I mean, is you might be a dessert concept that adds a breakfast virtual brand. There might be ways to strategically leverage it, but you are probably not in a position where you need that complexity. You probably don't have the bandwidth. So if those are true of you, virtual brand's not going to be your thing.